You know, it was Josh Carlos in the chat who actually made a very astute observation. If you saw Triple H tonight on this show, he was in the opening segment. He did nothing. He did nothing. He contributed absolutely nothing, although he contributed so much tonight, just not in the ring. But he's starting to grow his hair back in. Did you notice that? He's got the whole peach fuzz thing going on top of his head. And I think Josh has a very astute point that the bald fraud comments have gotten to him because after all these years, he is starting to grow his hair back in. I think the comments have finally gotten to him. I suspect he's going to get a lot of them after the show tonight. A lot of bald fraud comments are probably going to be coming his way on social media. You know what my biggest regret is, honestly, other than watching this show, of course? It's nights like this where I really wish I did have a Sirius XM subscription so that I could wake up in the morning and I could listen to Busted Open Radio just to see if they bust a nut to that concert segment. I need somebody to update me tomorrow on what I need to know what that conversation is going to be like when they talk about the concert that we had on Raw here tonight. Please update me on what is discussed there. Yeah, they're really going to be putting that WWE radio thing to the test tomorrow, coming off this, what was the go-home episode of Raw. The final Raw before SummerSlam. We have one show left to go. SummerSlam is on Saturday and Sunday. We have SmackDown on Friday. May the wrestling gods be with us. If the show on Friday is anything like what we had tonight, and here's the thing, like I think people expect me to come on here and kind of rip the entire thing to shreds, you know, and go on some sort of like epic meltdown or whatever, because clearly there were a lot of people, just judging from the chat and others on social media, who were not enamored with this Raw show tonight. And why should you be? Why should you be? It was the typical uninspired, drivel that we typically get. But the thing about it is this. We had on this is the final push to SummerSlam. We had the final face-to-face between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins in the ring. They said absolutely nothing different than we've heard from them in every other segment that they have had up until tonight. They said the same stuff over and over again. Seth Rollins said the same stuff. Roman Reigns said the same stuff. I have to beat you. I have to beat you from my family. Seth Rollins talked about how I'm in your head. I've beaten you before. Blah, 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 blah. We've heard this all before. We had Brock Lesnar and Femi. Hell in a Cell, right? A match that I'm looking forward to this weekend is SummerSlam. And they had the cell. They actually had the giant cell. They were there tonight in the Intuit Dome in Los Angeles. If you didn't know that, I don't know how you wouldn't know that, because they constantly told you about all the celebrities that they had in attendance tonight. One of whom, by the way, took part in one of the worst television segments of the year, which we will get to. But they were in LA. The giant cell. I mean, this thing is as big as I've ever seen it. So much so that it actually makes these guys look small. That's the drawback of having a cage that tall. It makes these guys who are gigantic look tiny. But they brought in the cell. The time that it took them to assemble the cell and raise it and then lower it. And for what? So we had one last face-to-face. Brock wouldn't get in the cell. Oba was in the cell. So you had that visual of, that Oba's trying to get to him, but he can't. And we have Paul Heyman on the microphone. Paul Heyman is saying the same thing over and over again. And to me, this is the greatest sin of WWE television right now. And this is nothing new, but it's nights like this where it really gets driven home. They say the same shit over and over and over again, the same way, right? We hear the same basic beats that they hit in all their promos, and they just drive it home over and over and over again. So when you watch these television shows, and sometimes I get this feeling, I don't know about you guys, but I'll get this feeling that, man, I feel like I've heard this before. I feel like I've watched this segment before. Where have I seen this? Where have I heard this? On the show. Probably many times before. It's the same thing on repeat over and over again. At this point, I mean, you didn't even need tonight's show. You're all up to date on what these stories are. You're either into the stories for these matches or you're not. It's as simple as that. They didn't do anything on this show tonight, I don't think, to really get anybody to change their mind one way or the other as to whether or not they were going to carve out time this weekend coming up to watch SummerSlam, right? You're either watching it or you're not. It's very simple. But that's what they did for the two big matches here on this show. Basically, it was rinse, repeat. And then there's Danhausen. Now, I like Danhausen. Danhausen, I mean, the guy came into the company at the end of February, and we are now in July. They strapped the rocket to this guy. And they have him everywhere, right? They got lucky with the Nick stuff, but they have him everywhere. They literally now have a Danhausen ice cream truck. Did you see this? I wish I would have pulled the photo of this thing. This thing looks horrifying. It's like his giant face on the front of a truck. And apparently they're going to be driving it around the Minneapolis area. They have this new horror movie coming out, by the way, I think called Ice Cream Man. And that's kind of what this reminds me of. Like, I wouldn't go up to this thing. But he is everywhere. And good for him. You know, I'm happy for him and all the success that he's having, and I'm sure he's selling a shitload of merchandise because that's why they're featuring him so heavily and they're pushing him so hard. So that's great for Danhausen. The problem is they're pushing him everywhere. And at some point, right, people get burned out on that. So you have Danhausen all over these shows, whether it was SmackDown, Raw, he's in his laboratory, he's in the ring, he's stealing people's money, he's wrestling the occasional match, he's putting a curse on this guy, he's putting a curse on that guy, and all of these things are going on. And then I see last week that they promote a concert for Raw tonight, where Danhausen is going to be in concert with Joe Hendry. And I thought to myself, I thought a few things to myself. I said, first of all, that sounds absolutely terrible. Number one. Number two, I thought to myself, what is the purpose of Danhausen being in concert? And is Joe Hendry going to get an actual entrance on this show? Now, I already knew the answer to the question. I just have to ask it out loud anyway because it's a running joke here on these shows. I talk about it every week. Will Joe Hendry ever get a proper entrance for an actual match, or really any segment on the show? The answer is no, by the way. But they announced this concert, and I said, this is either going to be really, really fun, or this is going to be really, really terrible. They are not The Rock. The Rock is the only person, outside of that one time that Elias had that great segment with Kevin Owens in Seattle. I mean, more heat than I've ever seen in my entire life, maybe on Monday Night Raw. There are rare exceptions, okay? Usually it's The Rock who knows how to carry this sort of thing. And I know that the concert is sort of it's the Joe Hendry thing. He was doing it in TNA. The reality of it is this. WWE has made it very clear to you and me and the entire viewing audience what they think of Joe Hendry, which is to say he's a nice guy and he's a creative guy and he gets a lot of credit for just sort of organically getting himself over and getting himself to the point where he got a contract with WWE. And I've had the chance to meet the guy and shake his hand. Super nice guy, right? I got nothing bad to say about him, but it's very, very clear. On the main roster in this company, he has no future. If you're a Joe Hendry fan who really wants to see him doing more, right? This guy's a former world champion in TNA. It ain't happening. What you see right now is as good as it's going to get. I don't even know if we're going to see him on the show a year from now, right? But put that on the side. They announced this segment. And to start the segment, I thought fucking Elias was in the ring. We hear the fucking guitar strum. And then it's Joe Hendry. And they proceed, he and Danhausen, right? Joe Hendry has his guitar. Danhausen is playing with his organ. Not so sure that wouldn't have made for a better show than what we had tonight, but that's not the organ he was playing with, so get your mind out of the gutter. He's playing with his organ, and they're singing a song about how, I believe that you are cursed. I believe that you are cursed. And I'm looking at the fans behind them in the crowd, and they're sitting there, and they look completely unamused by this. And it's going on and on and on and on, and then finally we have the Mini-Hausens come out, and now they're all dancing around. And then all of a sudden, there's a bunch of women in the fucking aisle with masks on their faces. And they're waiting for their cue. And now they come running down to the ring. And they're doing a whole dance routine outside the ring. And I'm like, what the fuck am I watching? What the fuck am I watching? And how is this supposed to get me interested in anything that Danhausen is doing at SummerSlam? Because he actually does have a match at SummerSlam. So this is going on for an extended period of time. Everyone's dancing, they're singing this song. It's the same fucking lyrics over and over and over again. And I'm banging my head against the desk and I'm like, this is awful. This is terrible. It's like a stand-up comedian doing a routine at a comedy club and the joke just doesn't land. So instead of moving on to the next joke or getting the hell off stage, he just continues to extend the joke. But then finally we had the Judgment Day come out because we're going to try to tie this into this match that Danhausen is having this weekend against Dominic Mysterio. And of course, they love their celebrities, so they had this boxer who was there. And I know he's got a big following. He's got like 1.2 or 1.3 million followers on social media. And he gets involved in the segment. And he hits Joe Hendry from behind with the guitar and helps the Judgment Day. I don't give a shit. Who cares? And the worst part about it is because Danhausen got left laying at the end of all this, it probably means he's winning this weekend. Which means he's going to beat the AAA Mega Champion. I'm sure that thrills the Undertaker to no end. They have room on that show this weekend for that match. I guess because Danhausen is super over. We have 3 sets of tag team titles in this company. Do you realize that? We have 3. We have a tag team title on Raw. We have a tag team title on SmackDown. We have a women's tag team championship, which just changed hands at Saturday night's main event. So at least that got defended on that show. Not that I give a shit. I mean, those belts, give me a break. Please. But nonetheless, 3 sets of tag team titles. You got 2 nights of SummerSlam this year. 12 matches, I believe, so far. I thought maybe they were going to announce a 13th match tonight. They didn't, which is fine. Hey, 12 matches. Cool. Not one of them do you see a tag team title defense. I mean, we can go up and down the list of all the different people who were missing and who were not on that card. Don't get me started on the Carmelo Hayes stuff and other people who have been missing from the show, but we have Dominic Mysterio and Danhausen, and we have a new stipulation that was just added to the match tonight. Human monies on a pole. Yeah. Oh, I bet there's a certain someone who got a warm, tingly feeling going up his leg, bro. Yes, we have a pole match. It is now a pole match. I wanted to take a poll, and whoever wrote that segment, and I beat them over the head with it. But at the end of the day, right, as I go on about this segment, and I get very animated about this segment because it was genuinely awful television. I mean, in all honesty, whoever was responsible for that segment should not be allowed to put their 2 cents in for a while. It was terrible television. But at the end of the day, it was just one segment. There's a larger problem, right? Because it's one bad segment. But it's one bad segment on a show that just isn't very good. And that's the real sin right now when it comes to WWE television. For all the talented men and women they have on that roster. And every now and then you may get a gem of a segment. And even tonight, you know, I'm trying to look at this show, which I'm not enjoying as it's going on, and I'm trying to find little rays of light. Javon Evans and Rusev had themselves a solid match tonight. Rey Mysterio and Ethan Page had themselves a solid match tonight. With the right outcomes, by the way. Javon won his match. Ethan won his match. That's good. 4 men who are not even on the SummerSlam card this weekend. On this final Raw before SummerSlam. Not one of those men are actually wrestling this weekend, but okay. Raquel Rodriguez against Sol Ruca. We have a brand new women's Intercontinental champion, which I think I said last week. We're probably going to get a title change here. And there were a couple of people who were like, well, what are you talking about? Sol just won the belt not that long ago. Why are you going to change the title? Look, I'm not the one booking the show. I'm just telling you what I thought was going to happen here because we already had a match between them a few weeks ago. And they were running it back, and I didn't think they were going to beat Raquel for a second time. It just felt to me like we might be getting a title change on this show. And we did. Neither of those women are also on the SummerSlam card this weekend. But I was very happy for Raquel. Raquel has really, if you think about where she was a couple of years ago, well, especially when she was a babyface, I'm talking like pre-Judgment Day. Coming out, smiling, right? She put the muscles up so you could see her back muscles and everything. That was her whole gimmick. She would come out and show you her back muscles. Oh, okay, cool. What else can you tell me about her? She was on the road to nowhere. Her going heel and joining the Judgment Day did wonders for her. And apparently the criticism that she had gotten from Kevin Nash, which she took to heart, also did wonders for her, and she upped her game. So I thought it was cool to see her actually win her first championship here tonight. It did not come easy. She got her nose busted up by Sol. It opens up other questions to, now that they've taken the title off of Sol Ruca 2 months after she won it, is she just going to get a rematch and win it back? Or, where are they going to go with it? I don't know. Sol Ruca has really not done much of anything since Becky worked with her and she beat Becky to win the championship. But we could point to different people on these shows where you look at their booking and how they're being used, if they're being used. Certain people who just sort of vanished, and why did they vanish? Is it an injury issue? Is there something else going on? And I don't know the answer to all that. But at the end of the day, the greatest sin of these shows is that they're just not good. They're not good. And in some cases, they're actually quite boring. And I find myself sitting here as we go into the second biggest WWE event of the year this weekend, and I can't wait for it to be over, so we can get beyond these current stories and we can move on to whatever those next stories are going to be. We know Femi is going to beat Brock Lesnar this weekend. Anything else would be an unconscionable decision on their part. Unconscionable. So when he beats Brock Lesnar, I'm wondering where to next with Femi, right? Everyone, it's easy to sit here and talk about WrestleMania. They're going to do Femi and Roman Reigns. I worry about what the next 6 months are going to look like. I worry about that with a lot of these people. I look at some of the people who were building momentum and seemingly, they were in a position where, okay, these guys, they're on the cusp, right? They're on the cusp of being elevated into that next level. And we get some new faces there at the top of the card. I look at a Jacob Fatu, I look at a Braun Breaker, and I look at where they are now. And I shake my head. Braun Breaker may be the worst example of this. And in his case, I understand that the hernia didn't do him any favors and he was, gone for a few months there, but still, that was months ago. To see where he is now, to see where he is right now at this moment, relative to where he was at the beginning of the year, it's startling. It is startling. And he's not the only one I could say that about, right? I've talked about Gunther. This is a company that we talk a lot about how they're built on moments. Viral moments. They love their viral moments. They love when they can bring a celebrity in. Right? There are certain things they love to do. And Triple H, as a booker, has a certain reliance on certain tools and techniques, right? He's very big on returns or turns or masked men, right? He always goes back to his bread and butter, his tried and true. And we see a lot of this repeated on these shows. But then you also see people, these start and stop pushes, or they're starting to get behind somebody, but then they kind of get cold on them, and you're kind of scratching your head wondering why. And what we're left with here with these week-to-week television shows, and don't even get me started on, again, all of the I know everyone bitches and moans about the commercials and everything. It's a necessary evil. It's not going away. It is what it is. Does it help the shows? It sure doesn't help the shows at all. When you're constantly breaking in the middle of matches and stuff like that. So that only makes it worse, right? But I don't even talk about that, too much, because what are you going to do, right? Every television show has commercials. It feels like there's more of them now than ever before. But I'm talking about the quality of the actual television shows. I want these shows to make me feel something for some of these people. I want to be invested in as many characters as possible on the show, whether they're a heel or a babyface. There's one character, you're gonna think I'm nuts, or maybe not, maybe you agree with me. But there's one character that was actually on the show tonight. And for all the shit that I talked about the MFT stuff on SmackDown and how awful that was, and they went with it for far too long. Again, not interesting television. That's another great example of what I'm talking about, where you have a faction on that show on Fridays for months and months and months, right? The MFTs, and they're going out there to the ring, and I'm not sure what they're supposed to be. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel about them when they're on my television screen. Am I supposed to really hate these people? Because I don't like them either. I'm just sort of indifferent towards them. I find myself being indifferent towards a lot of people on these shows. But like that was one of the worst examples of it. Because they couldn't even respect the audience enough to kind of bring you in and tell you more about like who these guys are and why you should give a shit about them, right? They couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. So it was the same old shit week after week, month after month, until finally they started firing some of them. And these guys lost their jobs. I'm not even sure Tala Tonga and Tama Tonga are safe from that. They're still employed for the time being. But the MFTs was a complete waste of time. And Solo Sikoa is someone who was completely miscast on the show. And I always said, man, this guy has a babyface run in him. And you're starting to see some of that bear fruit, right? He actually got some light solo chants tonight at the Intuit Dome. What he's doing right now, keep doing what you're doing with him, and I think he'll continue to get over as a babyface. Of course, my fear now is that WWE is going to end up having him do some big shock turn back heel and join the bloodline and fuck the whole damn thing up. But like, I looked at him tonight on the show and I said, you know what? I'm digging what he's doing. For the first time in months, I'm digging what Solo Sikoa is doing. So work on that, right? Focus on that. Go in that direction. Maybe that could be something. And I'm trying to find different people on the show where it's like, I like what this guy's doing. Or, hey, I like her. She's kind of cool, right? She's different. Focus on that person. Let's get something going here. Because these shows, they're so monotonous. And it's like there's no real life. There's no pulse to it every single week. They're going through the motions from segment to segment. They're trying to sell you on this and sell you on that. And now we're going to get WWE radio plugs up the ass now every week. So now we're going to be hearing about that constantly. And they're shoving all of this in your face, one right after the other after the other. It's one giant infomercial. When as a viewer, all I want as a wrestling fan is for you to tell me why I should give a shit about this and that person and that person. And I don't know that there has ever been a time, certainly not in many years, where it was this bad. Where it's just like, I don't care. I don't care. And I want you to make me care. And that's a problem. That's what I feel when I watch so many of these shows from week to week. We joke about how awful the weekly television is. And it used to be a situation where you would get to the pay-per-views and, well, at least the pay-per-views, you get some big matches and the pay-per-views of these like great shows. And you can't even really rely on that all the time anymore. I feel like more often than not, you do get some really good matches on those shows, but it's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee, especially when you get these 4-match cards, 5-match cards. I don't know. I don't know with this product these days. And I hear from other people because I think maybe it's just me, right? There'll be a WWE diehard fan who will be like, well, just stop watching. Just stop watching. Lex Luger used to come out when he was doing his All-American gimmick, and he was feuding with Ludwig Borga. And I remember they had a face-to-face, or maybe it might have even been him and Yokozuna, but I think it was him and Borga. And he had that line, he goes, love it or leave it, right? So you get the WWE diehards. Every time there's any sort of critique or anything, and they'll be like, basically love it or leave it, right? And I'm like, well, I've loved it for so long. I think that I've at least earned the right to stick around long enough to voice my opinion and hope maybe that things will improve and things will get better. And it doesn't. And I don't know that there's any reason to be optimistic that anything is going to radically change, especially in this TKO era of WWE. This just may be the way it is. It struck me watching Unreal Season 3, which I finally just wrapped up this morning. It struck me watching it, and when they take you into the writer's room and they take you to the gorilla position, and you see some of those same, you see obviously Triple H is there, and there's Bruce Pritchard, and there's Michael Hayes, and it's the same faces and the same voices. How much of that is the problem? Maybe we need an overhaul in that department. I don't know. I don't know. What is missing? The spark that is missing from so many of these shows. It's depressing. It really is. So the Danhausen stuff is just one segment on a show. Right? A lot of people are going to be dumping on it, rightfully so, talking about how awful it was. It's one bad segment on a television show, but it's a television show that on the whole has not been very good for some time now. And that's the bigger issue. How do you fix that? How do you fix that? Everyone's got ideas on like, well, they should do this and they should do that, right? Fewer commercials or, push this guy or let's, merge the tag team title. These are all fine ideas. These are all fine ideas, but they're not going to do that. How do you fix this? I don't know. Right now, I'm just hoping that we can get a really good SummerSlam card this weekend, and then coming out of that show, push the reset button, and now you've got that period from post-SummerSlam heading into Rumble and WrestleMania season. And there are a lot of times where that tends to be a very dead period in WWE as you get closer to the end of the year. So I don't know that they're necessarily going to be giving us anything that is going to be radically different and radically more exciting than what we're getting now. We probably will see some people disappear too. Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, they'll probably go away. Maybe it's a good opportunity for some of the other faces to step up. But do you trust Triple H and WWE to actually put their foot on the gas and let those guys excel and let those guys try to make it to that next level? Based on the way some of them have been booked this year and what they have them doing right now, I'm not very optimistic about that. This is your Monday Night Raw review. By the way, before I even move on here, for those of you who are YouTube TV subscribers, you'll be happy to know, supposedly you have access now to ESPN Unlimited. Like YouTube TV was like the last holdout. And a lot of people have had access to ESPN Unlimited for almost a year now. Supposedly now YouTube TV you do. I don't. And I'm a subscriber. I tried it. I don't see the option for it. I went through all the steps. So either it's all bullshit or they just have, I'm one of the lucky ones who I guess it hasn't rolled out to yet. So I guess I'll have to VPN it and watch SummerSlam on Netflix this weekend. But this is your Monday Night Raw review. It is July 27th, 2026. I am the Solomonster. Thank you guys for getting me, if you didn't notice, to 93,000 subscribers. I appreciate it very much. Now the march to 94 begins. That wasn't a great year for WWE business-wise. We did get some really good matches that year, though. But anyway, thank you for 93K. Super chats are open. Get them on in. And if they come in, I will be reading your messages a little bit later on.
Shut the fuck up.
There's Brandon. There he is.
Fuck that tree.
Hey, Brandon, thank you. Oh, who is it? Arabian Night just mentioned that awful chain match last night at Redemption. And here I thought that was going to be the worst thing I saw all week on wrestling television. Boy, was I wrong. Actually, it still may have been because that one went a lot longer than the concert did. The best thing I can say about the concert tonight is that at least it didn't go 20 minutes. That chain match was fucking awful last night. Oh my God. Anyway, there's a couple of new super chats. You'll see them listed down in the description below. I think those are the $14 and $15 ones. And yes, I did review Redemption last night. So if you missed it, my live review, the video is up right now, talking AEW Redemption for those of you who are interested in that. You're certainly not going to hear about that on WWE Radio. I had a lot of people message me and go, not one moment of discussion about Redemption this morning. And I said, well, it's called WWE Radio. What did you expect? Spin the wheel. See how many likes we are going to need for tonight. I think this wheel spin is more exciting than the concert that we had on TV tonight. In fact, I know it is. 515 likes. Very doable. We're already closing in on 400. So 5:15 is all we need. I feel pretty good about that. I wish I could say I felt pretty good about this show, but that would be a lie. They opened the show with the weigh-in. We're going to go segment by segment here and break this bad boy down. We're going to start with this. We had the weigh-in. Triple H was in the ring, not to weigh in, but he was in the ring with Adam Pearce. And the Hell in a Cell was above the ring, and it was slowly, ominously being lowered. And I just thought, fuck, I forgot how tall this new cell is. It's like I said before, it makes these guys, like Brock and Oba, are two big dudes. And it makes them look tiny because it's just so big. I don't know why they made it so big. I'm just glad it's not red anymore. Remember the red cell era? God, that was awful. I'm glad they actually went back to the gray. So they cut to a shot of Oba Femi, and he was walking through the back. Then we got a split screen. We had Brock walking on one side. We had Oba walking on the other. And they were playing that dramatic music in the background that they used to play. Like when somebody would be in the back. And they might still use it in NXT, but they used to play it in the background. Like dun, 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 dun. And as somebody was walking, so they were playing that. I think that adds a lot to the presentation, so I kind of like that. So Oba strutted to the ring first, and he disrobed to step on the scale. He weighed in at 302 pounds, after which Pearce introduced Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman to the ring. They came down. They didn't strut, but they came down, and just before Brock was about to enter the cage, he shut the door, he locked it. Oba jumped out of the ring, and he was trying to open the door, but the door was locked, and he was basically face-to-face with Brock. He couldn't get to him. Brock's just laughing at him. So Heyman cut a promo as Brock circled the cell outside, and Heyman said that there was a change in plans, and Brock had the key in his mouth, the key to the door. And he climbed on top of the announce desk. Heyman's microphone kept cutting out on him. It happened at least twice. I think he got two different microphones. It just kept happening to him. Friggin' billion-dollar company with equipment worth tens of dollars. So Heyman ran through Brock's accolades, and he repeated the same stuff that we always hear him say. It's the same shit. Over and over again. You know, my client ended the Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania, the Conqueror, and blah, 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 blah. It's the same shit every week. He's the beast of the Brocktagon, undefeated inside Hell in a Cell. He's had 2 matches. The man has wrestled twice in 25 years inside the cell. Against the same person, no less, twice. Yes, he's undefeated. It's not as impressive as it sounds, though. Heyman said Lesnar already weighed in backstage. Yes, they had a weigh-in on this show. They had a scale in the ring. And he said, oh, he already weighed in backstage. 303 pounds. 1 pound more. 303 is what they used to announce Hogan at. He was every bit of that, too. You look at him back in 86, he was every bit of that 303. So Lesnar took the mic, and he said, I'll see you at SummerSlam, bitch. He loves saying that word. So they went to go walk away, and Oba told Lesnar, yeah, run away like you always do. Lesnar headed back towards the cell. Oba told him, just remember, he's not going to be locked in the cell with Brock. Brock is going to be locked in the cell with him. And that's what I love, bitch. Lesnar's yelling at him and laughing. They're like face to face. That's what I love, bitch. And then Lesnar flips him the double bird. And so Oba flips him the double bird back. And I'm just like, I'm watching this and I'm just thinking to myself, between that and the shirt that Brock was wearing, because he was wearing his talk shit, get hit shirt, boy, these Netflix censors, they're going to be working overtime this week. They're going to be earning that paycheck with all the editing that they're going to have to do with this show. So Oba started beating up all the fake police officers in the ring. I guess now we're supposed to believe that they are real cops, after we were told last week that the rent-a-cops on the show were paid for by Heyman. But I guess these were real cops, right? Because real cops would just stand there like a bunch of fucking idiots and let this guy beat them up. Oba would be tased and on the ground in 5 seconds. But they're just standing there like punching bags, and he's kicking him and throwing him around. There was one of the cops / indie wrestlers who almost got hurt. on a botched fall from grace attempt. He like went up for it wrong, and so Oba had to reset, and then he finally hit the fall from grace. But it wasn't graceful when he tried to do it the first time. And that was it. A very ho-hum segment. There wasn't anything particularly wrong with it. We got that visual of the two of them being separated only by the thin mesh of the cage, right? So we got no physicality between them. They wanted to keep them apart. That visual was kind of cool. I don't know why Triple H was in the ring other than, oh, he's Triple H, and so his mere presence means that this is an important segment. Okay, sure, I guess. This just all felt very pointless. The alternative was you don't have them on the show, and you just run a couple of vignettes. But we already got that. Up and down the show, we had vignettes from Chad Gable and Penta and Io and Liv, and it's like, how many vignettes are you going to run, right? You want to have them in the building. So I'm not saying like I would have had them have a pull-apart brawl or anything like that. I'm just saying Heyman out there doing his usual spiel. Brock didn't even weigh in the actual ring. It was like, okay, whatever. I'm already excited to see the match. I'm excited to see the blow-off. I'm excited to see this over and done with. Oba Femi should be wrestling Roman Reigns this weekend, by the way, for the World Heavyweight Championship. I don't give a shit if you disagree with me on that. When I talk about how these shows are very boring and there's a sameness to them, this is why. You want to shake things up. You want to, don't be afraid to push new people and put them in situations that maybe they ordinarily wouldn't be in. You got to save it for Mania next year. Really. This product can really use a kick in the ass right now. Oba Femi should be wrestling Roman Reigns after winning King of the Ring for the World Heavyweight Championship this weekend. We had Otis and Tozawa against Braun Breaker and Austin Theory. This was a non-title match. Crowd popped when Otis made the hot tag into the match, and he hit both guys with avalanches in the corner. He did the caterpillar splash or elbow drop, whatever, to Braun Breaker. Tozawa hit Theory with a dive out to the floor, and then he goes up top. He's going to go for the giant senton. He gets some height on this. We talk about Montez Ford and the height that he gets on the frog splash. I don't think Tozawa gets enough love for the height that he gets on that senton. Holy shit. So he comes jumping off the top rope. Logan Paul, though, distracted him first. And that little delay caused him, when he came down, to land on Theory's knees. So on the floor, Breaker sent Otis into the barricade. Theory then held Tozawa in the ring, open for the big super spear by Breaker, which he now calls Double Vision. And Breaker got the win. So when the match was over, they were ganging up on Tozawa. Otis made the save, and he climbed the ropes. He was going to give Theory a Vader bomb. Maxine, though, distracts Otis. And so Theory and Breaker, they are able to then lift him for a double power bomb. And then Otis ate a super spear from Braun Breaker. So the Vision were leaving. Theory grabbed a chair. He smashed Otis in the head. So basically his head was up against the ring post and sandwiched his head up against the post with the chair. I thought they might be doing this non-title match here on this show to shoot some sort of angle, with the finish that would then set up an actual title match for SummerSlam, because we have no tag team title defenses. Yes, on this show. And that will still be the case because there will be no tag team title match. Not only did they not set anything up for the Vision at SummerSlam, but they seemingly wrote Otis off television with an injury angle, at least for a few weeks. Otherwise, why would they do what they did there at the end? It's got to be at least a few weeks. The fall of Braun Breaker is, it just has to be studied. Compared to where he was even a year ago, you don't even have to go back to the beginning of this year. He was a guy on the ascent. And I'm sorry, but, like the injury that he had earlier this year, that's not an excuse. Oh, well, he got hurt. It stalled his momentum. Okay, fine. That was in March. We're in almost August now. Okay, so that excuse doesn't fly. He's stuck at a tag team with Austin Theory, of which he's not even the real focal point of the Vision anymore. The Vision doesn't have Paul Heyman. The Vision doesn't have Seth Rollins. You would think that Braun Breaker, by default, would be the lead guy, that he would be the focus of this group. He's not even. Maxine Dupree and Austin Theory now are the focus of the Vision. Braun Breaker is a background player in his own group. He's part of a tag team. Oh, but he could run the ropes really fast. Look at where this man was and look at where he is now. Will he still get to where everybody thought he was going? Probably. Probably. But I'm a little less sure of it now than maybe I would have been 6 months ago. It is quite something to see that he will not even have a match on the show. You got 2 nights of SummerSlam this weekend. He ain't even going to get a match on one night. Amazing. But as I said before, they have 3 sets of tag team titles, none of which are being defended at SummerSlam. Which, again, we've talked about what Triple H thinks of tag team wrestling in WWE. He doesn't give a shit about tag team wrestling. He doesn't give a shit about tag team wrestling. You don't need to ask him. You don't need to know him personally. All you need to do is watch the shows. He's the ringleader. He's the puppeteer. He's the head of content. He's the head of creative. If he gave a shit, tag team wrestling would not be in the state that it is currently in WWE, which is pretty much as bad as it has ever been. That's sad. Why we still need separated tag team titles, I'll never know. Now we go backstage. Jackie Redmond was interviewing LA Knight, who said that others have been calling him paranoid, which doesn't make any sense because every prediction that he has made has come true. He said his team is going to win their match at SummerSlam. Now I said they were in Los Angeles. So of course, got to show Celebrity Row when you're in LA. So they showed Gabriel Iglesias, Fluffy. He was there. And someone else who was there was, and now he may not be a mainstream celebrity, but he's a wrestling celebrity to me. And that is the Mouth of the South, one of the greatest managers of all time, Jimmy Hart. I think the last time Jimmy Hart came out at the Intuit Dome, he heard a lot of boos. Thankfully, the Boo Birds were not out for Jimmy Hart because he was there by himself tonight. So that was good to see. Love Jimmy. Love Jimmy. The ageless wonder, Jimmy Hart. And also, a lot of people give love to Jim Johnston for all the music that he produced during his time with WWE. Not enough people give love to Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart and J.J. Maguire. They were also very instrumental in some of those iconic themes, including Shawn Michaels' theme. It's so many different themes. People are like, oh, that Jim Johnston. And it's like, oh, Jim Johnston actually didn't do that theme. So I think that Jimmy Hart, as great of a manager as he was, deserves a lot of credit and doesn't get it for the music in WWF and WCW that he helped produce, which is another problem with modern day WWE. So much of the music fucking sucks. We see a video package here after this regarding Chad Gable and his journey to where he now finds himself. He is now on the cusp of becoming, for the first time, Intercontinental Champion. And they took us all the way back to a few years ago when he was feuding with Gunther. And he made that promise. I swear to God, he said, I'm going to be Intercontinental Champion. And then he proceeded to get his ass kicked and he was beaten. And they showed his little girl in the front row. I mean, she was in tears. Head in her hands. That little girl was devastated sitting there in the front row. She looked like me watching Monday Night Raw tonight. But then all the El Grande Americano stuff, and finally now this is Chad Gable is on the cusp of doing the one thing that he has never been able to do, and he can do it in his hometown of Minneapolis. They have one job this weekend. Belt him up. New Intercontinental Champion, Chad Gable. We had a video promo from Io Sky in both English and Japanese talking about how she's going to beat Liv Morgan at SummerSlam. After this, we had Javon Evans against Rusev. Rusev dumped Evans to the floor with a fallaway slam. And so Evans sent Rusev into the ring post. And Evans now is circling the ringside area. Coming around here. He's going to do some big dive onto Rusev. Rusev caught him, though, and dumped him into the timekeeper's area. So Evans came back, though. He dove over the barricade onto Rusev. That took us into a commercial break. After the break, Rusev was in control. Evans made a comeback, and he hit Rusev with the red dot, right? That flip into the kick that he does. Rusev took a powder out to the floor, and the referee followed him outside. They kept the camera off of Rusev, and it was on Javon, and usually that's a sign that somebody is hurt, and they're trying to figure out how serious it is. And they were talking, even Corey Graves on commentary was talking about how it might have been his eye. Maybe he got kicked in the eye. I thought they might stop the match. I mean, the way they were talking. But then the referee got back into the ring, and seemingly Rusev was okay. He must have been, because he took another dive. Once Javon knew that he was okay, he's like, time to dive. And he hit the ropes, and he did a dive out to the floor onto Rusev. And so back inside, Rusev caught him with a Machka kick, and then he went for the accolade. Evans fought out of the attempt. He went for the OG cutter, but as he came down, Rusev caught him, held on to him, and then locked him in the accolade. Evans fought to the ropes. He got the break. Rusev went for another kick. Evans, though, was able to avoid it, and he ended up winning with the OG cutter to put away Rusev. I thought this was good stuff here from these two. I enjoyed this. The crowd was solidly behind Javon. Especially when he was in the accolade, trying to fight out of it and make that comeback, right? They were with him every step of the way. But again, neither of these guys are on the SummerSlam card this weekend. So for a show that really was designed to sell you on the matches on Saturday and Sunday, this just sort of existed in its own little world. And it existed to just give Javon something to do, give him a win, help get him over, right? Every single week, every single win, right? He gets over a little bit more and a little bit more. But he's got nothing to do this weekend, so it doesn't really, tie into anything that they were trying to promote for this weekend. And then after this, it was time. It was time for the concert, everybody. We were promised a concert with Joe Hendry and Danhausen, which means it was another week where Joe Hendry is already in the ring, and he does not get an entrance here on this show. And so with the lights out, we heard the guitar strum. And the first thing, it's weird how we sort of associate certain things or people with certain noises. I hear a certain song, and I can associate a year in my life. Maybe when I was in school or something, right? Just by hearing the opening notes of a song, it takes you back to a particular place, right? It's amazing how music works. I heard this little guitar strum, and I thought, I was waiting for like, hello, my name is Elias, or whatever. Hello, I am Elias, I guess is what he used to say, right? Like, I'm conditioned to think it's going to be him. I kind of wish it was. They had me wishing for the Drifter here in this segment. It was not the Drifter, though. It was Joe Hendry. And he was in the ring with his guitar. Danhausen was playing with his organ. And they performed a remix of Hendry's theme song with the lyrics, I'm not going to fucking sing it, but they were singing, I believe that you are cursed. So they're sort of fusing the two of them together. This whole fucking show is cursed. So then this is going on and on and on. I'm waiting for the punchline here, or I'm waiting for the Judgment Day music, or somebody's going to come out and put an end to this. All that would have done to me anyway is turn them babyface. This is going on, and then all of a sudden the Mini-Hausens, I guess out from under the ring, little people's court under there. I guess court was in recess, and so the Mini-Hausens, they crawl into the ring, and they're doing like a dance routine as they continue to sing the same lyrics over and over and over again to this awful shitty song. And it's not like the crowd was like going bonkers for this or anything like that. You could hear like pockets of people who were kind of singing along, and that's about it. I'm sure there were plenty of people in the Intuit Dome who were also like, what the fuck am I watching here? What is this? What is this? So this is going on and on and on. And then all of a sudden we cut to the aisleway, and they have like 2 rows of dancers, female dancers, and they're all wearing these white masks. And off camera, obviously somebody gave them their cue, like, go. And so they dance down to the ring. They don't get in the ring, but they're outside the ring and they take the masks off. And now they're doing a whole like dance routine out there. And it just keeps going and it just keeps going and it just keeps going. I'm like, this is like a fever dream. And I realized like in the moment as the segment was going on that this is easily one of the worst television segments on any wrestling show all year long. Like if you were to create a special award for worst TV segment of the year, when we get to the end of 2026, if this isn't in the top 3, then boy, are we having a shitty year. Okay. This is just awful. And then finally we see Ryan Garcia hops the barricade. Now, many of you are probably going, who? The only reason I knew who it was is because he was one of the celebrities that they mentioned earlier when they showed like Gabriel Iglesias and all that. They showed him. Got to be Zuffa. It's got to be Zuffa. They're every week about the Zuffa boxing. I don't give a fuck about Zuffa boxing, right? But this is the TKO effect. Anything under the TKO umbrella, it becomes the most important thing in the world. And so every week we have Michael Cole talking about Zuffa boxing, and we have Joe Tessitore talking about Zuffa boxing. And going crazy for it and talking about what an amazing card this is going to be. This big fight's coming up this weekend. I don't give a fuck. Who cares? Ryan Garcia hops the barricade. He starts dancing. He's like in a conga line with the women outside who were doing the dance, okay, during this segment. So he gets in the ring and he grabs a guitar. And he pretends that he's playing with it. And he acknowledges Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry acknowledges him. Joe Hendry turns his back and Garcia smashes the guitar across his back. He has gone heel on Joe Hendry. And the crowd goes mild. But now the Judgment Day are here. I guess they were all in cahoots. He has joined the Judgment Day. Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough, they're in the ring. They attack Danhausen. They attack the Mini-Hausens. Dom hits a frog splash on Danhausen. And that was the end of the segment. This was garbage. This entire segment, there was a segment on Raw back in 2018. And I wish I could remember what it was. I know that the New Day were in the ring. And I vividly remember Kofi Kingston holding up a sign that had a garbage can on it. I think I may have even put that in my thumbnail. It was like, worst Raw ever. That was a whole other rant. 2018 Raw. We're rapidly approaching that. But this segment here should be put in a garbage can. It should be taken to the landfill. It should be emptied out into the landfill. They should pour gasoline on it, set it on fire, let it burn for a while. Eventually, it'll burn itself out, right? It may take a few hours. It may take the majority of the day. I don't know how big the blaze is. Eventually, the blaze will subside. The flames will go out. And then at that point, they should drop an atomic bomb on it. Like, this segment was awful. Absolutely awful. One of those segments that as it's going on, I'm like, somebody actually sat in a room and they said, you know what would be a really good idea for this show? You know what would be super entertaining here? You know what would be sports entertaining on this show? Let's have Danhausen and Joe Hendry do a concert. And this is what they came up with. How is it that when he was in TNA, Joe Hendry, and this is what helped get him over in TNA, he would have these little concerts or he would be feuding with somebody, right? I think one of those people was probably AJ Francis. I remember them feuding in TNA. And like he would write songs about these people and they were genuinely funny. It might have even been a music video in there somewhere. And I got the impression that like Joe Hendry was probably very hands-on with it and probably had some level of creative freedom above and beyond what he may have in WWE. But this is the WWE version. And it's not nearly as fun. How did we go from that to this? You mean that he can't do here what he was doing there? Why? Why? Because we have a room full of writers who know better? Who think that, well, no, we can do this. This is what we do. It's what we do. It's what Triple H always says. What we do. It's what we do. Really? You might want to stop doing it then. Danhausen is going to be just fine. I mean, Danhausen's going to be over no matter what, right? The kids love him. They've got him all over the place. He's in ice cream trucks. He's at Comic-Con. He's everywhere, right? He had a fucking parade float in New York City a few weeks ago. The problem with Danhausen, though, is you keep doing this stuff where he's going to be all over the shows doing all these different things. And you will get to a point where you're going to start burning out more and more people. And there are already people who like are sick and tired of seeing him all over these shows. You're going to burn him out. You're going to burn him out. There is such a thing as too much of a good thing. And they are rapidly approaching that territory with him, with a lot of people. They'll still make plenty of money on him. And so because of that, they'll continue to feature him in a prominent way. But you're going to burn a lot of people out on this stuff when you just constantly with the Danhausen stuff. It's not a gimmick that lends itself to being on 6 different segments in one show, let's say. I'm not saying that happened tonight, but it did happen last week. It's not a character that lends itself to being in that many segments on the show. Like, you got to dial it back. I'm sorry. I like the guy, but you got to dial this shit back. It's an indictment on Joe Hendry, though, and his position on the roster. It's sad because I know he worked hard to get that contract and get to where he is. And it's a great story of how he got himself over and he got himself on the music charts, over in the UK and all that stuff. And we see now what his ceiling is in WWE. I never expected him to go to the main roster and be a world champion or anything like that. But again, there's no reason why you can't feature him in a way that's very similar to how he was being used in TNA. Not when he was TNA world champion. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like he was doing stuff that was actually fun and humorous. Why can't he do that here? Why is he not allowed to get an entrance on the show? Why has so much of his stuff happened during commercial breaks? Why is what he's doing now so fucking boring? Why? I know what he can do. It was very amusing when I saw him doing it before, but then he comes here and he's doing it here on these shows and it's fucking boring. And I don't want to see it. It's also an indictment on Triple H for thinking that this horrendous segment was good in the first place. He doesn't get a pass on this. He's responsible for this. Everything you see on that show, he's responsible for. Never forget that. We used to say that all the time about Vince. Man, who wrote this segment? Who gives a shit? It's all Vince McMahon. If you get a great segment, you can give him credit for it. If you get a terrible segment, you could probably assume he had a lot to do with it. But when you're the guy in charge, the buck stops with you. It's no different with Triple H. Penta. We had a vignette for him. And he talked about how he's happy that Chad Gable has found his way. But redemption, he says, doesn't come from taking his Intercontinental Championship. Which is true, it doesn't. It actually comes from the My AEW app for about $20. So at SummerSlam, he's not fighting for revenge, he's fighting for his legacy. For those of you who didn't see the match order for this weekend, that match is taking place on SummerSlam Sunday. It might even open the show. I know it's going to be happening in the opening hour, which I assume is airing on ESPN. Have they said that for sure? I assume the first hour is going to be on ESPN. That's what they've been doing with all these PLEs. So SummerSlam Sunday is when we're going to see Chad Gable win the Intercontinental Championship. So then it was, yay, more celebrities. Got to show more celebrities. At least this time we actually had some real celebrities here. They had Mario Lopez. AC Slater was there with his family. And they showed Ashton Kutcher in the crowd as well. We got one final vignette. We've been getting him for a few weeks now. This was the last one before he comes back next week, hyping the return of Big Cass, former Big Bill. He's on his way back. This time we got a clear shot of his face here. He was standing right there with this real menacing look on his face here in the vignette. I like the fact that it looks like they're bringing him back as a single. I think that's the right move. I think that's the way to go. I am a little surprised if Enzo is going to be coming back, and maybe he's not. Maybe he's not, but if he is, it would be surprising to not link them up in some way, but I'm okay with that. I think if you want to give Bill a shot of getting over as something more than what, he was previously, this is the way to do it. Him on his own, not as part of a tag team. Being in a tag team in this company is a dead end. So we'll see next week. I guess if his little friend pops up with him, maybe he'll be his mouthpiece, but Big Bill on his way back. We had Rey Mysterio. Nothing big about him. Rey Mysterio against Ethan Page. Late in the match, Rey hit a tornado DDT. They ended up on top with Page getting knocked down to the floor. Rey then jumped off the top rope and caught him with a Rana on the way down. That momentum sent Ethan hurtling forward into the announce desk. So then back in the ring, Rey went for a 619, and Ethan used the ring skirt to block it and catch him. So then he hit the egoplex and he got the 3 count. And so this was very similar to the Rusev match with Javon Evans in that we had a solid match here, the right person going over, and a good win here for Ethan Page. But this was the final Raw before SummerSlam, and so neither one of these men are on the SummerSlam card. So it was a nice win for Ethan, but it just doesn't tie into anything that's happening this weekend, which is what this entire show really should have been about. That final bit of hype here for SummerSlam, which they did. I mean, they were running vignettes up and down the show, and they opened and closed with segments that tied into 2 of the bigger matches in Minneapolis. But, Ethan, I think I said when he popped up on Raw, I said inside of 6 months, 6 months, this man is going to be the Intercontinental Champion. So now it's been, 2 months that he's been on TV? Maybe 3? Let's say 2. I don't know. I mean, if Gable wins the championship this weekend, I could see Ethan being the one to eventually beat him for it. I would hope it's not going to be quite that soon. Like in the next 4 months, I would hope that they would give Gable some time with that belt, but I still feel that way eventually. He'll hold that title. Maybe it won't be within the next 3 or 4 months, but I would think that as far as candidates for Gable to drop the belt to, why not Ethan Page? I'm already booking the end of the Gable title. I promise you I'm not. I'm just thinking ahead as to what would be a good time to potentially crown Ethan Page. That's all I'm saying. I'm looking to the future, right? This man is going to win the championship this weekend, and then what? Let's start thinking about who would be a good person to eventually be in that spot. We had the Women's World Champion, Liv Morgan. She was featured as Io was earlier in her own pre-tape vignette. She said that she's the girl that everybody underestimated and overlooked on her way to the top. She said that some may consider her an arrogant champion, but when you have her resume, you don't care what people think. She said that she knows how good Io is, but she's going to remind everybody that she is the greatest of all time. I will point out to you that we just passed 100 days without a single title defense for Liv Morgan since she won the championship at WrestleMania. Great. I didn't even mention that in my little rant earlier about how awful Triple H has booked the women's divisions on these shows. Even if Io Sky walks away from SummerSlam this weekend with the Women's World Championship, and I hope she does, and I'm picking her to win, I have no reason to believe that her reign is going to be any different than the reign that Liv has had. She may go 3 or 4 months without defending the title. Let's be honest here. When she left WrestleMania last year, still the champion, she had that great match with Bianca and Rhea. I couldn't tell you a fucking thing that Io did with that belt in the first 2.5 months coming out of WrestleMania. I couldn't tell you a single thing that she did with that championship until she had that great main event with Rhea at the Evolution show. That was in July. So what makes any of us think that it's going to be any different even if they put the belt on somebody else? It's going to be just as awful. In the back, we go to Danhausen's lab. all the Danhausens, they're all just laying there. They're all beaten up. They're being tended to by the doctors. They didn't have any mini doctors. They were regular doctors. And so Danhausen is also, he's just sort of sitting there, and Adam Pearce walks in, and Pearce implores him, just pay them the money. What? Like they're fucking like ransom or something. Just pay him the money. All right? Pay the Judgment Day the money you owe them. He goes, never. But then Danhausen had an idea. Why don't we hang the human monies on a pole at SummerSlam? And Adam Pearce, he liked that idea, so he made it official, and then he said he needed a drink. One drink is not enough, though, for this show. You got to keep it coming. Open up a fucking bar tab for me and just keep it flowing. One drink ain't going to be enough. I'll sit there with Adam Pearce. We'll just drink our sorrows away all night. Just what we needed now on the SummerSlam card. Now we have a pole match, bro. A pole match. We're going to have the human monies on the pole. Great. Jimmy and Jey Uso, they made their way down to the ring through the crowd. Dom's another one, by the way. My God, these new names keep popping up in my head. You know, I talked about where Braun Breaker was and where Jacob Fatu was. And look at where Dom is. Like, over the last year, Dominic Mysterio has just basically been stuck in purgatory, it feels like. What have they really done with him? I know he's got the AAA mega title, but like, what have they really done with him over the last year? He was progressing very nicely. They were doing a lot with him. And like the last year, it's just like treading water. I mean, there's so many different examples of this. It's so frustrating. The Usos come out through the crowd. They go to commercial. When they come back, they're in the ring. Crowd wants Jey to run it back. So they play the music again. They briefly run it back. So they run down their opponents at SummerSlam, give them a warning shot. But then Solo Sikoa appears in the crowd. And maybe the biggest surprise here is that he was not wearing red. He actually had a different, he was wearing white. Yeah. Tomas says he does not even defend the AAA mega title. Yeah, well, that's WWE. You don't have to defend your championship in this company. And if you're hurt and your name is Rhea Ripley and Triple H is infatuated with you, then you can get away with not even having to be stripped of your belt. Seth Rollins got hurt last year. He got stripped. I suspect they don't expect her to be out as long as he was, but still. Everyone else gets stripped. The title gets vacated. Rhea gets to hold on to it, so we'll have an interim champion. Yeah, I'm not surprised that Dom doesn't defend the belt. I guess in the eyes of WWE, it makes you a bigger star. You know where this really started with? This started with Brock Lesnar. Because Brock was part-time. He was the Universal Champion. He was never fucking around. That's why for a period of time there, Seth Rollins was the Intercontinental Champion, and that title had to be elevated on Mondays to like the top title on the brand because they didn't have a fucking world title because Brock was never around. Oh, but Brock is the champion, and so the title, therefore, it's very prestigious now because it's being held by somebody who's never fucking around to defend it. That's really where it started. And then with Roman, it was a similar thing with Roman. Roman was around more than Brock, kind of a little bit, but like he would take off and disappear. And he had the championship for like 1,300 days. That's where this shit started. They think it like elevates the title. Give me a break. So Solo Sikoa is in the crowd, and he says he doesn't see the real bloodline. So whatever this crap is, they don't have a chance at SummerSlam. Jimmy reminds Solo that the bloodline was the best thing that ever happened to him, and he should run the plays, or else. Or else what, he said. You're going to yeet for 30 minutes? And he was doing his own mocking of the yeet. Said that he doesn't want to come back. He loves where he's at, and so does everybody in Los Angeles. And this is where he got a little bit of a pop, and you could hear there were chants of Solo from the crowd. He told the Usos, you could tell Roman to kiss my ass. LA Knight then appeared on the stage, and he told us how it's all going to come to an end at SummerSlam. So Solo starts to remove his jacket. LA Knight takes off his jacket or vest. And maybe we can end it right now. And so LA Knight and Solo, they get the advantage in the ring. They're going after the Usos. We hear Jacob Fatu's music. And he makes his way down to the ring. He goes after the, I guess, baby faces, I guess, right? Solo technically is a baby face in this match. You know what? I shouldn't even say that. I don't know who's the... Look, LA Knight is obviously a baby face. Royce Keys is supposed to be a baby face. Solo Sikoa, to me, he's a baby face. But I'm not quite sure what he's supposed to be. The Usos, they feel like the heels, right? But people still yeet, and they want him to run it back. This is the state of wrestling, by the way. This is what is so sad about the state of pro wrestling in 2026. I miss the days when this an old man yells at the clouds, but tell me when I'm wrong. There was a point in time where you had heels on the shows who actually wanted to be heels. You had heels on the shows who wanted to get people to hate them so much, they didn't even want them to buy their merch. They didn't even want to have merch. That was Jericho at one point, I think, told WWE, don't make new t-shirts for me. My job here, my goal is to get people to hate me. This might have been when he had that great heel run in 2008. And so, and it was very clear, like, okay, who the villains on the show were. And they wanted to be genuinely hated. And now it's just a bunch of people who it really does now more than ever feel like they're just playing a part on a TV show, which they are, but it wasn't like thrown in your face, right? And I'm looking for like genuine heels. And I guess Gunther was sort of the closest thing to that. And then they have just completely, I mean, my God, he doesn't feel anywhere near as special now as he did at the beginning of the year. And now it's like there's so many shades of gray, and it's like, well, we'll just let the people decide, right? But are there any real genuine heels? Now, the only one that I could think of in wrestling would be MJF, who doesn't even work for this company. I mean, he clears the bar with everybody else. There's nobody in wrestling. There is nobody on a mainstream level in wrestling right now doing what MJF is doing in terms of truly being heel and wanting the fans to just hate them and hate everything that they do. No redeeming qualities whatsoever, right? There's really nobody else doing that right now. In WWE, who would be the closest example of that? Someone says Brock is a heel. Really? Brock is a heel? Really? I don't know. I mean, he gets a lot of cheers when he comes out. He's smiling. He's doing the bounce, up and down. I don't know that Brock really strikes me anymore as just like a pure heel in the way that he used to be. I got to disagree with you on that. WWE doesn't allow any real heels anymore. Well, you may be right. You may be right about that. Someone said Drew. I can't even look at Drew McIntyre as a heel because everything Drew McIntyre was saying before he left was 100% true. Same thing with Sami Zayn right now. Supposed to be a heel, right? He's the last real good guy, though. You know why? Because everything he says is true. He's constantly being screwed. I can't look at a Drew McIntyre or a Kevin Owens as a real heel. Not when they're making so much sense. So whatever these guys are supposed to be, they pledge their allegiance to Roman Reigns, right? They're waving. Everyone's waving. They're putting their fingers up in the air every single week when Roman comes out, even though he's a complete asshole. I don't know anymore. It's all about just catchphrases and hand gestures, and that's all people want to do. They want to yeet, and they want to put their fingers in the air or up their nose or up their ass. I don't know. I don't know anymore. I don't know, man. Jacob, he got the Tongan death grip applied on Royce Keys when Keys came out to try to join in the fracas here. Solo, though, hit the Samoan spike to break that up. Keys then dropped Fatu with a spine buster, and then Knight hit his BFT on Jacob, who fled out to the floor. So, again, I am enjoying this new side of Solo Sikoa that because of the role he was in before, we never really had a chance to see. He's got a funny personality, man. I want there to be more fun on these shows. And I'm not talking like fucking Danhausen in concert fun. I'm just saying, like, let some of these people just be themselves. In a lot of cases, like, that can make all the difference in the world. Just let them go out there and be themselves. Solo should not be a heel right now. He's a natural babyface. Let him do that. He did the heel thing for so long. Let him do that. We had Sol Ruca. I will say one thing, by the way. We have the 6-man tag match this weekend. I believe on Saturday. The 6-woman tag is also on Saturday, or whenever the men's is. I'm surprised about that. I don't know why they wouldn't want to break that up and have one on one night, one on the other. So it's a little weird to me that they're doing the 2 6-person matches on the same show. We had Sol Ruca against Raquel Rodriguez for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Sol came off the top rope with a moonsault to the floor early in the match, and Raquel came up busted open very badly from the nose, and her nose looked pretty messed up. I don't know if it was broken or not, but it looked pretty bad. So they also started doing something new here. I only noticed it here during this match. Maybe they did it earlier in the show as well, where instead of just cutting to commercial in the middle of a match, which they love doing, instead what they did was they said that this segment is sponsored by DiGiorno. And so the match ended up in a little box on the screen. Not like a tiny box. It was, I would say if normally it would be 100%, now it was at like 60 or 70%. And then on the left side of the screen, they put a DiGiorno logo. And the match just kept going, and you heard the commentary and everything. But it was another way for them to be able to advertise in the middle of the matches. So this is their new technique now. Instead of just cutting to a break, and instead of having the giant ads on the mat and the ads on the turnbuckle pads and the ads on the the LED apron and barricades and everything, now we'll just kind of shrink the match. And it's not like a picture-in-picture break per se, but we'll shrink the match a little bit, and then we'll advertise something on the side of the screen. And then after 20 or 30 seconds, we'll put it back to full screen. We'll see if they start doing more of that. It's not delivery. That's right. It's not delivery. It's DiGiorno. I don't eat pizza anymore. You guys know that if you've listened to this show for any length of time. Unfortunately, cheese is the enemy. But I will say I did try DiGiorno many years ago, and I thought it sucked. So it's not real pizza. Maybe it's because I just got so used to eating New York pizza, which is the best pizza in the world, by the way, that anything else just tastes like garbage. Personal pan pizza at Pizza Hut, way back when I was younger, that was the shit. That was good. Domino's I never tried. Domino's I never tried. Papa John's I never tried. But the one time I had DiGiorno, yeah, not good. So anyway, Roxanne Perez ran out to run distraction. Jessica Carr was busy with her. Liv Morgan then, meanwhile, tripped up Sol on the other side of the ring. Here comes Io Sky. Io comes down to the ring. Morgan, though, jumped her. As Io got down to ringside, she didn't see Liv, and Liv just fucking wrecked her and took her down to the ground. So back in the ring, Ruca hit Rodriguez with a code breaker. Meanwhile, on the apron, Io hit Liv with a Meteora up against the ring post. Domino's got 50%. It's going so fast, the chat. I can't see everything. Domino's crust is really good. Okay. I haven't tried it, so I can't vouch for Domino's. I know obviously they're very popular. God, now you're making me want to eat pizza now. Man, you're making me want to eat pizza. It's been 15 years, man. You're making me want to eat pizza now. Every time I walk past a pizza place, I feel so left out. So Sol went for the Soul Snatcher, and Raquel grabbed her foot to stop her from completing the move and sent her headfirst into the top part of the ring post. Referee did not see this. Raquel then came over. She grabbed Ruca right out of the corner in position for the Tejana Bomb, and she dropped her and she pinned her. And we have a brand new Women's Intercontinental Champion. So this is the first title that Raquel has held, singles title anyway, in WWE. So that's a first for her. And I have no issue with her holding the championship. I think that for her to go in there on this show after having just had a shot and then lose again.
Off is the direction you can fuck.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably what she told Triple H. She's like, yeah, that doesn't work for me. I need to win. So I'm glad she won. On the other hand, Sol Ruca had won the championship at the end of May. We're now almost at the end. Well, we are at the end of July. And I'm like, okay. She got to hold it for a couple of months, but she didn't really do anything with it. She had a couple of defenses, one against Raquel and one against Lyra, who they showed, by the way, during the match, they showed Lyra watching this match backstage on a monitor. This is after she confronted Sol during a promo off the air during the commercial break last week, teasing that I'm going to get that belt back. Right? She had the belt once before. I'm going to get the belt back. And so it seemed like they were setting up babyface against heel, Lyra chasing after Sol, and now Sol has lost the championship to Raquel. Now, my only hope is that Raquel is not going to hold this thing hostage in the Judgment Day and not do anything with it. Sol would probably, I would imagine, get her rematch soon. Where Lyra fits into this now, I have no idea. Lyra challenging Raquel? I mean, I don't know if I see that. So I'm not quite sure where they're going to go from here. I know none of these women are on the SummerSlam card this weekend, so we're going to have to wait until after SummerSlam to find out. Can I also just say, on the subject of Lyra, Valkyria, the follow-up to her win over Bayley at Madison Square Garden has been terrible. Again, she couldn't even get on the show last week. And then this week, they show her on screen for about 5 seconds, watching the match in the back. She's not on the SummerSlam card, so that's the thing. I mean, right now, she's not going to be a priority for them, but I just think the follow-up to that should have been a much bigger deal, or made out to be a much bigger deal. And I just think that the follow-up has been terrible. And it's important because she just turned heel not that long ago. This is her first heel run. And so you want to give her all the support that she needs to try to get over as a heel. They're not giving her a whole lot of support so far. I hope that changes starting next week. So ahead of a commercial break, Roman Reigns, the World Heavyweight Champion, made his way down to the ring. Yes, what follow-up? That's a good question. What follow-up? Lyra could be pissed at Sol for losing it. Start a feud with Sol and Lyra non-title. Brother, you actually think that this company has the capacity or the attention span to devote to a non-title women's feud? Have you been paying attention? How many great non-title women's feuds can you think of right now? They were doing Charlotte and Jade. Now, maybe you wouldn't consider that a great non-title women's feud. That would be the big one. And they were supposed to wrestle at SummerSlam, and now they're both going to be a part of the ladder match. This is not a company and a creative team that does very well when it comes to women who don't have a championship. It's all about the title. They don't really pay much attention to anything the women are doing if they don't have a championship. They don't give a shit. So I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I think that would be a fine idea, but it's not in their DNA. Roman Reigns comes out to the ring. He's, soak up the aura, everyone, right? He's just the king of aura. He's standing there. He's taking his sweet time. He's looking around. Everyone's got their fingers up in the air. It's time to go farming, everybody. And so Roman comes to the ring. So finally he spoke. After the commercial, he spoke. He was about to ask Los Angeles to acknowledge him. Before he could do it, though, we heard "Burn It Down." Now, I don't know if you were hearing that from Seth Rollins' theme music or if you were hearing that from me all the way here in New York as I was referring to this television show. But we hear, I love it when I pop myself. We hear "Burn It Down." Out comes Seth Rollins down to the ring. So Rollins tells Los Angeles to acknowledge him. Roman says, well, LA knows the deal. You're an asshole. Rollins says, well, guilty. You're right. You're right. He goes, you know what? I'm the bad guy here. When it comes to me and you, I'm the bad guy, and that's fine with me. Some of us get everything handed to them. Some people start on third base. Not me, though. Some people have to hustle to get theirs. He said Roman is everything that he says he is. He's the biggest star in the industry. He's got an edge on Rollins in so many ways. But the one thing that he does not have on Seth Rollins is that Rollins is a better professional wrestler than him. Professional wrestling is the one thing that Roman does not have over him. In this ring, he owns Roman's ass. And when it comes to what's going on inside Roman's thick skull, he owns his ass there too. Roman can call him an asshole, but he can't call him a liar. Every single time he owns Roman, and Roman thinks SummerSlam is going to be different. Why? What makes you think that SummerSlam is going to be any different? Have you changed? Now, he made a great point here. I make this point every week. He said to Roman, have you changed even one tiny bit? So what are you going to do? You're going to get yourself disqualified like you did in 22 back at the Royal Rumble? Maybe you're going to call in the bloodline since you can't do anything on your own? He said Roman doesn't stand a chance. So Roman said he's the only real superstar. He's the only true champion. And he meant what he said. He needs to beat Seth. He needs his family to see him do it. Not just, and this was the great line here. This was the great line of the promo that I'm still trying to dissect here. He said, not just this company, the whole industry needs me to beat you. So all those independent wrestlers that are up in the Portland area and the Pacific Northwest, all of those independent wrestlers that are overseas and in the UK right now, and all those wrestlers in MLW, and all those wrestlers in TNA, and Billy Corgan's NWA, and by God, all those wrestlers, including Jon Moxley in AEW, they need Roman to go in there and beat Seth Rollins. Now, he didn't explain why. He didn't explain why. Why do they need him to beat Seth Rollins? I think they just say shit sometimes to make things sound more epic and bigger than they really are. I'm also having a case of deja vu right now as I sit here talking about this, because I feel like there was something very similar that was said in one of these promos maybe last year. And I'm trying to remember what it was, and I'm almost positive it involved Seth Rollins. And I can't remember. Maybe somebody in the chat will remind me. There was some similar kind of line where, maybe it was, you know what? Maybe it was heading into the triple threat with Roman and Punk and Rollins. Was that it? Maybe at WrestleMania last year, where it was like the industry, like the fate of the industry is on the line. It was some ridiculous line like that. Always makes me laugh when I hear some stupid shit like that on this show. The Cody and, maybe that's what it was. Okay, the Cody and Rollins feud. Maybe that's what it was. Even then, I remember thinking like, what? Why? They never tell you why. But it's like the fate of wrestling is resting on this match here, on the outcome of this match. Oh, really? Wow. Okay. So Seth said that Roman needs this redemption so bad, don't you? When he suckered him into this match a month ago, Roman said that he needed his family to be there to see it. And it took him back down memory lane all the way to WrestleMania 31 when he cashed in on his ass. And he sent Roman's whole family home in tears. Sika was not very happy, by the way. That's legit. When Roman got cashed in on and did not win the championship at WrestleMania 31, apparently Sika thought his boy was winning the belt that night, and plans changed, and he wasn't very happy about it. I don't know if he was in tears, though. But Seth says he hopes Roman's family is there on Sunday because he would love nothing more than to watch them cry again when they figure out that their daddy is a fraud, their daddy is a loser, and their daddy will always and forever be Seth Rollins' bitch. There's the B word. That's the trigger point. And so Roman punched him in the face, and Roman starts to put a beating on him. Superman punch, spear. Roman goes outside. He grabs a chair. He's staring at the chair. This is the same chair that he can remember Rollins putting in his back all those years ago when he broke up the Shield. He slides into the ring with the chair, but in doing so, Rollins is waiting for him, and Rollins stomps him right on top of the chair. That's how the show went off the air. The challenger, Seth Rollins, was standing tall over the champion. Enjoy it, because that's the only time that's going to be happening, because Seth Rollins is not beating Roman Reigns this weekend to win the World Heavyweight Championship. But they are closing out the weekend. That is your Night 2 main event on Sunday. It will be Roman Reigns against Seth Rollins at the end of the show, which honestly, now that we're here and we see the weeks and weeks of build for these respective main events, it makes sense. I said this on the Sound Off this weekend. I was wrong. I said coming into this, this Night 2 main event, it's got to be Cody and Punk. They have to be closing with Cody and Punk. And I still feel like that's the match I'm looking forward to more than this one. But considering everything that they've done, you can't honestly say that the build up for the Cody and Punk match feels like it warrants that being the Night 2 main event. They've done a much better job of promoting this and making this feel like a bigger deal, just based on all the history they have, right? They did it again tonight. I didn't mention it, but they had a bunch of these little, very brief, like vignettes. Because last week they talked about the cash-in. They talked about some of the other moments from over the years in the history of Roman and Seth. Tonight they did more of that. They talked about their match in 2022 at the Rumble. They talked about their WrestleMania Night 1 main event last year. They've done a better job of just getting people kind of, I guess, invested in the story of Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins and how this is the big payoff. This is it. This is probably the final time, right? The final battle between these two men. It's not the match that I'm looking forward to the most, but it does make sense to me that they would close out the weekend with it. Or maybe they also just have a big angle planned. I don't know what it would be. You know, I'm not going to say someone's turning, maybe someone's debuting. I don't know. But that's what's going to be closing out the weekend on Sunday. This show was not good. The Danhausen segment obviously is going to stand out like a sore thumb. I mean, that segment was fucking horrendous. But these shows right now, again, they're just not fun to watch. And they were. It's not like they've always been like this, but this is generally how they are now. SmackDown was easily the worst show on television. You go back to the beginning of the year. I don't want to say the show is so much better now. I mean, it's improved in some ways, but SmackDown, it's an hour less, thank God. But like SmackDown ain't that good either. It's not like SmackDown has had some marked improvement from a few months ago. They kind of waffle. They go back and forth where one week maybe Raw's the better show. One week SmackDown's the better show. But the weekly television in WWE, I don't know that collectively, week to week, the television has been this bad in years. Uninspired, dull, repetitive, lifeless. So many words that you could think of to describe these shows. And it sucks. You know, it really sucks because I don't like seeing it this way. It makes it harder to talk about these shows, you know, when there aren't enough stories or segments on there that truly get you excited about them. It's not like I aim at the beginning of each week, I can't wait for this week's show to be fucking trash so that we can just pick it apart. Oh, believe me, if it's trash, I will pick it apart. But I'm just kind of hoping like maybe they can come up with something this week. You know, maybe they could pull a rabbit out of the hat. I know not every weekly show is going to be a home run. It's a lot of television to produce in the span of a year. But I'm not grading on a curve. And neither should you. You know, you're investing your time in these shows. And I know many of you aren't, by the way. I know many of you don't even watch this anymore. You've given up. You just rely on me. You come here and tune in specifically because you want to be kept updated on what's going on because you're not watching the shows. I don't blame you. I don't blame you one bit. But I think people genuinely want the shows to be good. When they're good, they breeze by. It makes it a lot easier to watch. Makes the discussions more lively, right? When you're kind of into it and it's like, oh, where's this going to go? What are they going to do with this guy? Man, this guy's on the rise. Like, it's just very flat right now. So I don't know what else there is to say about this show that I haven't already said. Not good. We move on now to SmackDown on Friday night. We got one show left before SummerSlam this weekend. I'll be here to take you through it. I'll be here for SummerSlam this weekend. I'll be here for Dynamite on Wednesday, the first Dynamite coming out of Redemption. We'll talk about it all. We'll break it all down like we always do. It's what we do. Solomonster for Creative. I don't want the job. No, thank you. They need a lot more than that. Oh, there's Joe Hendry. There he is. He gets more airtime on these streams than he does on Raw. Sad as that is. All right, so we hit the like skull. We smashed that. Thank you guys for that. Let's go to your messages before we get into any of that, and then we can be the booker. And if we hit the bonus goal, we'll do 2 rounds. Right now, we're 6 out of 10 on the bonus goal. Again, if you're joining late, thank you for getting me to 93,000 subscribers here on the channel overnight. Appreciate you guys very much. Hope you enjoy your stay. Thank you for the coverage before this becomes WWE Sounds Off. Never gonna happen, brother. Not gonna happen. We'll start with Death Scythe. It says, I can see either Finn Balor or Sami Zayn winning the WWE Championship at Money in the Bank. At Money in the Bank, huh? Only to drop the belt on the same night when they are immediately cashed in on. I don't know about Finn. I could totally see that happening to Sami, though. Also, with Sami, it would make sense because it would further progress his Justice for Sami gimmick. And with Balor, at least he can always say that he was WWE Champion. Yeah, I would rather they not even put the belt on him if that's the case. I think that would be terrible. For Sami Zayn, I could see that. But for Finn Balor, you can't do that to Finn Balor. To just say that he held the belt. That's not how people would look at it, though. People would look at it and go, man, do you remember when they fucked over Finn Balor at Money in the Bank that one year? If you want to put the belt on Finn Balor, then put it on him. Take it seriously and put it on him and give him a run with it. If you don't, then don't put it on him. It's very simple. WWE Wrestling and Gaming. Predictions for Money in the Bank. I don't really have any right now, honestly. I think my early prediction was Roxanne for women's Money in the Bank. I guess I'll stick with her. I don't know if I'm as enthusiastic about that. I guess it depends on where things are. If they're still planning on building to a rift with her and Liv, I could see it being Roxanne. For the men, I don't know if there's really a favorite that I have right now, honestly. You know what? He just mentioned Sami Zayn. I could see Sami Zayn winning Money in the Bank. And then walking around with a briefcase and saying, I got my opportunity right here. And then eventually cashing in and losing. Groovy Goose, for as nostalgic as people get for the Winged Eagle belt, after Shawn Michaels posed with it for Playgirl, I don't know why anyone would have wanted to win it after that. I mean, you could say the same thing for all these people now when they win their belts. They strip down naked and they take pictures of it with the belts around their crotch. I think that's very disrespectful to the person who's going to hold that belt after them. Going to have to disinfect that thing. Ragnarok. The only ones cursed are us, the audience. This show sucks. Ricky says you picked Dom to win Money in the Bank. I did. That's right. Well, I'm taking that back. I no longer feel that way. Aaron says, great show. Plenty of ads, promos, celebrities, video packages. Only issue was every 45 minutes or so, they kept doing this thing called wrestling in between. Yeah, Aaron, I did notice that. That was actually quite annoying when they would interrupt all of it with a wrestling match. I wish they would stop doing that. It's a very bad habit they have. Dry Chicken says, AEW Redemption wasn't their strongest pay-per-view last night. Says, I will credit Tony Khan for allowing Andrade, Maya World, Kevin Knight, Speedball, and others to step up their game. It was a showcase. And the pay-per-view was called Redemption for a story that ended up playing out 3 weeks early. Maybe don't call it Redemption next year. Says, I'm watching The Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring over Monday Night Raw. I'm not sure which is longer. WWE Wrestling and Gaming. What do Roman, Seth, Oba, and Brock do after SummerSlam? Brock don't do shit. Brock's going away. Oba, that's the $1 million question. What does Oba do? And how long does Roman stick around for? Because I think he's going to leave again for a few months. I just don't know when. I don't know if he's going to stick around until WrestlePalooza. If he's going to go away after SummerSlam. I don't know. Alex says that Hendry and Danhausen segment was one of the worst segments I've ever seen in this company. Says this show sucks. This company is done. This company is not done. That's the problem. This company... They have no incentive to change anything they do because they continue to make money regardless, in spite of themselves. You know, they continue to make money. They'll make money now off this new WWE radio deal that they've put together. Doesn't really matter to them. GMB says Triple H's obsession with Raquel needs to be studied. I don't think an obsession. I don't think it's an obsession with her. Not really pushed that hard. There's other people he's obsessed with on this show. I wouldn't say Raquel is necessarily one of those people. Brandon Proctor says, I can't be bothered to watch this shit anymore. It literally puts me to sleep, but I always enjoy these streams. I can understand this review being a lot more tolerable. I get it. Like, I get why people who, you know, become disenchanted with the product but don't want to completely divorce themselves from WWE or from wrestling, you know, would stop watching the shows, but then would just sort of follow along on social media, or they would tune into podcasts or YouTube shows. It keeps you connected. You know, there's a sense of community, right? A lot of the same people, a lot of the same faces every week. And then if things take a turn and start to get really good again, it's like, oh shit, things are getting good. I better jump back in, right? I get it. It makes sense. It's sad though that there are a lot of people who have given up on it. Josh Carlos. Uh-oh, we got a sicko in the chat. Josh Carlos says Triple H prepping for the Chaperone 2 with new hair. Don't be shocked, Danhausen wins a belt before the end of 2026. Maybe they'll have Danhausen win the AAA Mega title from Dom at Triple Mania. Jeremy Rose, heels playing to the crowd, aura farming, and yeeting is something I can't ever get used to. Leave that to the baby faces. Yeah. Nick Grasso, instead of Solo Sikoa turning maybe Zillafat 2 debuts this weekend and helps Jacob and the Usos beat Solo, Keys, and Knight. Well, that's going to be awfully hard, seeing as how we have Zilla booked for House of Glory next Friday. In fact, we just announced today that Zillafat 2 is going to be defending his Crown Jewel Championship August 7th.
Enough! Enough! Enough!
That was me earlier tonight. Hey, Yukio Rules, thank you for the $15 super chat. But yeah, we have Zilla Wrestling Red. That's the Friday after SummerSlam, defending his Crown Jewel title. Aaron says they used to show they used the show to tell people to give them money instead of presenting a good product to make people want to spend money. They tell instead of show. It's a good way of putting it. I mean, look, the weekly television shows going back to the 90s have always just been an infomercial for what used to be the pay-per-views. Part of the problem, I also think, is that WWE, they don't rely on pay-per-views anymore, right? They used to be very reliant on ticket sales because they were running so many live events. Ticket sales and pay-per-views. I mean, that was their lifeline. Now they get all this guaranteed money. Right? They get guaranteed money from NBC Universal. They get guaranteed money from ESPN. They get guaranteed money from Netflix. Billions and billions of dollars. Now they're in bed with SiriusXM. They make all of these deals. And they have all this money coming in. All their events are streamed. Right? There is no such thing in WWE anymore as pay-per-view. Right? They already have your money. With all these subscriptions. They barely run any live events. Obviously, they want to sell tickets, but okay, SummerSlam is going to sell probably between the two nights. SummerSlam this year will do probably 50 to 60,000 tickets less than they did last year. It's not going to change anything. They're still going to make a lot of money because the prices are still elevated. So they may not set a new gate record this weekend, but they're still going to make a shitload of money. They don't give a shit. They don't care. They don't care. Phil with a $9.99 says, hey Solo, were you a fan of the first Jeepers Creepers movie? Also, the Danhausen segment was dog shit. I was a fan of the Jeepers Creepers movie. Barry MK, where's Lyra? Her and Bayley had a great match and we haven't seen her again. It's like New Day. Turn heel and nothing. Oh, I forgot all about that. Yeah. Man, there's so many examples of when it comes to like Triple H booking. Jeez. Yeah, I talked about the plight of the tag team division. I talked about the women's divisions on both shows. Look at some of the heel turns that we've had, man. You know, the John Cena heel turn, the New Day heel turn. He could do a memorable turn, but then he has no idea how to follow up on that turn, which is kind of the whole point. And he doesn't do a very good job of following up on it. Forgot about that New Day turn. Griga. Hey, Solo, just wanted to drop by. Thanks for the content. You're very welcome, Griga. I'm glad you dropped by. Z-Ray, I'm going to be honest, this was a boring show. The only thing interesting to me now on Raw is Solo Sikoa. I love his promos so much. And he's technically not even on Raw. He's not even part of the Raw roster. Aaron says, buy or sell, concert tonight or Lashley's Sisters? Sadly, I will have to go with the concert tonight. This was by no means the worst thing I've seen on this television show. Didn't Lyra break her nose? I don't know if it was confirmed that it was broken. She busted up her nose on Saturday night's main event. Bayley fucking hit her with a freaking forearm to the bridge of her nose. Yeah, and then you have Raquel tonight getting her nose busted up by Sol Ruca. What is going on in these matches? You know, someone needs to tell them that wrestling is a work. I mean, I know injuries happen in wrestling, but geez, I feel like how many broken noses or busted noses have we had? This is getting out of hand here. It's supposed to be a work. You got to work smarter. Michael Ferguson just recently got back into wrestling. Find your show better than anything WWE or AEW. Been listening multiple times a week. Keep up the solid content, my man. Well, thank you. Is it Mitchell? Oh, that's interesting. I think I may have said Michael first. I apologize. I think that might be Mitchell or Mitchell. I want to make sure I say it correctly. I appreciate that, though. I appreciate the compliment. Jeremy Rose says, let's say Money in the Bank. Oba beats Roman. Oba wrestles Roman in Money in the Bank? You're gonna do that match at Money in the Bank? But he gets cashed in on by Braun Breaker, who just won Money in the Bank. Is that good for business or bad? Too early for a Braun Oba feud. Doing Roman Oba at Money in the Bank, I wouldn't be doing that. I'm all for trying to build up Braun again to a point where you could get people to want to see him against Oba. I don't think it would take too much. I don't think it would take too much to get him, hot enough to get to that point. But yeah, I wouldn't be. One of my thoughts was, in the King of the Ring tournament, you could have gotten away with doing the first match between Oba and Braun, because I think they were on the same side of the bracket. And there were some people when I mentioned that who were like, oh, why are you going to blow it off in the King of the Ring? It's just the first match. You give people a taste of what's to come. And I think that would have been okay. What you're talking about here is like a full-blown feud with them. And yes, it's too early to blow that off in what is typically a very cold, kind of quiet period of the year. I don't know that I would be doing that. Now, if you wanted to have Braun cash in and win the championship and then build to the match in early 27 between Oba and Breaker, that I could get behind. But boy, Braun Breaker he's nowhere near that position right now. He is nowhere near being in that position. Not with what they have him doing. I smoke a lot of weed. DT solo collab. We did a show together a while back. Could happen again at some point. I do a lot of shows, dude. I do a lot of shows in a given week. Got the Sound Off every Sunday. You got Raw Monday nights. You got Uncrowned on Tuesdays. TNT on Tuesdays. Dynamite on Wednesdays. SmackDown on Fridays. We got 2 nights of SummerSlam this weekend and a Sound Off sandwiched in between. Like, dude, I'm about to drop. You're giving me more shows. I'm about to drop. I need a vacation is what I need. Thank you, brother. Shout out to DT. Boots with a $10 super chat says, when I wake up at 5 a.m., my alarm is set to Bret Hart's WWF theme by Jimmy Hart and JJ Maguire. I jump out of bed and do the gestures that Bret would do once he enters the ring and he looks at the crowd. That's a lot of information that you just shared there. That's a great song, though. See, that's another one. That's a Jimmy Hart one, the Hart Foundation theme. Man, and I thought I was a Bret Hart fan. This guy's waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to his entrance music and doing all the gestures. I don't even do that. And we just hit the bonus goal. 10 out of 10. I think Z-Ray put us over the top there. Thank you, brother. That, I do believe, is a double, right? That's a double Be the Booker right there. All right, so I'm going to stop that one. And we'll put a new one up. Just for shits and giggles. We'll try for a triple round. So we'll put a new goal up there. So got 2 rounds coming your way. Don't go nowhere. Nick Grosso with a 5 says, I don't know if you heard, Mike Santana has a new name, and it is Cruz Montana. Why did he need a name change? He didn't want to license his name to WWE, apparently. I think the whole thing is very silly. He has literally been on NXT television as Mike Santana. But at least he got to pick a name that had some significance to him. It has to do with his father, who passed away many years ago. We ever done a quadruple Be the Booker? We just did it a few weeks ago. I kept setting goals, and the goals kept getting met. I think we did 4 rounds in one night. Philip, who just asked that question, actually. Philip says, someone in the chat said WWE contributes to society's downfall. And I can totally see the validity of that statement. What is it about WWE that contributes to society's downfall? I could understand people saying that, which they were, by the way, in the late 90s. When you had people on television who were telling people to suck it, and people flipping, other wrestlers off, and you had women walking around in skimpy bikinis and teenagers watching the show and getting all horny and shit. I could see people thinking that wrestling was going to be the downfall of society back then. I'm not sure how it's the downfall of society right now, considering society is already in freefall. Got more important things to worry about than pro wrestling there, my friend. Philip, thank you. Alexander says, Triple H, Rhea, we need to take the belt off you. You're hurt. Rhea, that don't work for me, brother. Yeah, I love this idea that Rhea is the one who is, she's got that creative control clause in her contract. Come on now. B-Money04 says, hey, Solo. Don't know if you have heard yet, but ESPN Unlimited is finally available for YouTube TV. That is a lie, my friend. Not for me, it's not. I tried it multiple times earlier. I went through all the steps. In the YouTube TV app settings, in the ESPN app. I chose the YouTube TV as my TV provider. It's all set. Still doesn't work. I guess I'm one of the unlucky ones. Oh well. Griga. I'm still not paying $30 for that shit. Griga says, last WWE PLE to have a pole match was Extreme Rules in 2017. Kendo stick on a pole was Alexa Bliss against Bayley. Oh, I remember that being awful. That was a terrible match, wasn't it? Luis with a $22 super chat. I was trying to start a Vanessa. Oh, that's right. He was there. You were there, Luis. Luis is he's out in the LA area. I was trying to start a Vanessa chant because a wild Vanessa Hudgens appeared. It backfired on me. Says, also, screw these arenas for making rideshare services unavailable anywhere near the Intuit Dome. Go Metro in Inglewood. Now, Luis doesn't give a shit about the show. He's just upset that he couldn't call for an Uber outside the arena. But you didn't tell me what you thought of the show, Luis. Clone Force says, my great-grandma passed away this past Friday at 96. I'm very sorry to hear that, Clone Force. Were the two of you close? I'll tell you what, though. If it's any solace, 96, we should all be so lucky. There aren't very many people in my family who make it anywhere close to that. So that's a hell of a run that she had there. But I'm very sorry to hear that. Fire Breather 719. Is WWE 2K... Oh, I thought they said 2K26. Is WWE 2026 getting close to reaching 2019 levels? I always hate making this comparison because 2018 into 2019 was so fucking awful. So now I have to like compare levels of awfulness between the two eras. I don't want to do that. I will just say that the television shows right now are just not that enjoyable. Back then they were more offensive. And I think the big difference here is that these are not offensive in the way that those were. Maybe these are more disappointing because there's no reason for the shows right now to be as boring as they are. Back then they were like actively offensive how bad so many of those shows were. They were so bad. They were so bad. Yukio rules. I didn't even know about the serious thing until last week, but who needs that when we got the Solomonster? Keep up the great work. See, that's the attitude you need to have. What the hell do you need that for? What the hell do you need Bully Ray for? You got me. You got one New Yorker over here instead of the other one. That's all you need. Donald with a $4.99. Best part of Raw was whoever Pink Shirt was that cameraman caught during the Roman entrance. If you know, you know. I did not see this Pink Shirt that you're referring to. I must have looked away. Who was in the pink shirt? Hat of Discipline, who is one of the ones responsible for helping us get to our bonus goal tonight. So thank you, brother. Randy is another example of a great turn with a shit follow-up. We should start keeping a list of this. New Day, Orton, Cena. Oh, I know there was another one. I'm almost positive there was another one. Hopefully, if Cody goes heel this weekend, as I think he might, we don't add him to the list. Again, they can do the heel turn, but then they can't stick the landing on the follow-up. That's what worries me. And then another $10 drop here from Hat of Discipline. Thank you. Z-Ray with a 10. I feel bad for Braun Breaker. He has become second fiddle to Austin Theory and Maxine, and that is a historical drop from the mountaintop. It's like Darby doing a coffin drop off the top of Mount Everest is what that is. I zone out during Roman's entrance now. Well, I mean, it takes him long enough to get to the ring, so I'm not surprised. Joseph Brooks, do you remember Livewire? If so, what was your favorite episode? Mine was the episode with Stone Cold Steve Austin. And another was Mr. Bob Backlund. Yes, I used to wake up every Saturday morning and watch Livewire when it was actually live. My favorite episode was probably the Bruce from Connecticut episode when Paul Heyman called in as Bruce from Connecticut. Another favorite of mine is when Jim Ross, who was wearing this horrible sweater, was taking calls from fans who, like, the people were either getting nervous or they were asking all kinds of weird questions, and he was getting visibly annoyed. And that was a favorite of mine. Also, it's been said that WrestleMania 17 was the end of the Attitude Era. What match, moment, or event, in your opinion, ended the Hogan era? New Generation and Ruthless Aggression era. I don't know about Ruthless Aggression. The New Generation era. To me, as far as like the match that ended the New Generation era, I almost want to say when Sid beat Shawn at Madison Square Garden to win the title at Survivor Series. And then as far as the Golden era, the Hogan era, the match that ended the Hogan era, Well, I mean, you could say when Hogan got beat by Yoko at King of the Ring, it's only appropriate, right, that it would be a match that Hogan was in. I think that one would kind of make sense. Because then he went away and they really... I know Brett wasn't the champion at that point. He had already lost it, but they kind of went in on Brett. They tried with Lex. You know, it didn't really work out, but you felt like, okay, there's a changing of the guard going on here. Aaron says, maybe if Cody comes up short at SummerSlam, they'll circle back to Heyman telling Cody months ago, sooner or later, everyone needs a wise man. He's like the... I mean, I don't want to say it, but he's like... He's the one that gets passed around from guy to guy. Like, is that basically what he is at this point? We'll just pass Heyman around from one guy to the next. Boy, he gets around this guy, doesn't he? The problem is we need another Heyman instead of just always going with Heyman. Don Callis in AEW is the closest thing that we have to that. But I wish there was someone else that they had who's almost like a Paul Heyman type who could fill that role instead of constantly just going back to Paul Heyman. In St. James, my fiance calls Raquel the Mammoth and hates Liv. Well, apparently with that name, she hates Raquel too. She's calling her the Mammoth. Barry MK, speaking of WWE 2K26, that game's story mode has Jordynne Grace as the women's champion. Remember when we thought that would have happened for real? Yeah, well, those days are over. Her run was over in this company before it even began. That's right. Big G says Heyman is like the town bicycle. Everyone gets a ride. That's exactly what he is. JM and 4385 with a 499. I'd much rather watch The Rock make fun of fat women of Sacramento than whatever that concert was tonight. That would be very entertaining. Remember when Hollywood Dave Bautista was cutting a promo on John Cena and he was talking about Cena going around kissing babies and hugging fat women, and he was like going on and on insulting people, but he's standing there in this, like, I don't even think it was a leather vest. I think it was almost like a jean vest or something. He looked ridiculous himself, but like he was still able to pull off the look. But he's talking about Cena going around and kissing up to everybody. I'm like, man, where's that entertainment? That's what we need. We need more people like that on the show to help make this show entertaining. What happened to those larger-than-life personalities, man? I feel like 3/4 of these shows now, well, first of all, 3/4 of the show is commercials. But then the other, like, quarter of the show is just eaten up by entrances and people that they just take all the time in the world to just walk to the ring, and they look around and they wait for the people to start chanting and singing, or they run it back, or they do like nothing actually ever happens on these shows. You ever notice that? It's like all this other shit is going on. Nothing of any real significance is actually taking place. Yes, I spy our little intruder in the chat. A wild JD has appeared. I'm sure that he was just in love with that show tonight. I don't know. We were texting before. He texted me before. He was like, man, this is the best Raw I've seen all year. I go, you must be on drugs. I'm sure he loved that concert. Now, the big question is, if that concert would have had someone from Alter Bridge in the ring performing with Joe Hendry and Danhausen, would he have given it a better grade? That would have been very difficult for him not to. We got West Coast James is with us, celebrating 61 months of membership. I didn't go to tonight's show. That's right. You're in California. That's right. I didn't go to tonight's show. I would rather go to the next HOG show here in LA. I think that would be a fine choice. Hopefully we will have a date to announce very shortly on that. Maze the Great with 60 months of membership. Buy or sell. Who do you think cares about the wrestlers' necks less? AEW or New Japan? I don't think New Japan gives a shit, but AEW sure as hell doesn't. I've seen more near broken necks, I think, this year in that company than I've ever seen before. Jay White was almost paralyzed the other night because David Finlay got his foot stuck on the chain. And we got Ray with a 10. Hats off to you, Solomonster, because other than PLEs, I hardly even watch these garbage weekly advertisement shows anymore. But I still tune in to the Sound Off, TNT, and most of your show reviews. That's because you are a very smart man, Ray, and I appreciate the hell out of you for it. You got me tonight, you got TNT tomorrow night, so we got you covered. We got you covered, brother. Yukio Rules is coming in with a 5. Also, I know you don't care, but what happened to The Miz and Kit Wilson? Are they still zombies? Yeah, apparently WWE doesn't give a shit either. They haven't given us an update on their condition. They were walking around as if they had a stroke or some horrible, medical malady had occurred. I don't know. We haven't seen them in a few weeks. Perhaps they've taken a turn for the worse. I don't know. They could be up in the hospital somewhere. I don't know. I did learn something new, by the way. I was flipping earlier, and I think it was PTI was on ESPN, and they were talking about, I think it was a baseball player who calls himself The Miz. And I don't remember what team he plays for, but I'm like, I didn't know that there was another Miz. I thought there was only one. Apparently there's The Miz in MLB, and I just was unaware of this. We got Arc Prince with a $10 super chat. I'm late to the show, so I'm going to go back in time to listen. Catch you on the next review. Hyped for HOG next week, and perhaps I'll get to give you a fist bump. Are you going to be there? You picked a good night to go. I know we're sold out 4 rows deep. Standing room only. It's going to be a great show. And you all get to watch it live on YouTube. Our first time, we're going to be live and free on the official House of Glory YouTube channel. Yeah, Mizorowski with the Brewers. I don't know. I saw that and I was like, man, I didn't know there was another Miz that they referred to as the Miz. Unfortunately, I've tuned out most of the baseball stuff because the Mets are just so freaking horrible. It just completely soured me on baseball. So I check in here and there, and otherwise I just don't even want to know what's going on. Otherwise it'll just make me even more depressed. I get depressed enough watching Monday Night Raw. I don't need to be any more depressed watching the Mets forget how to play baseball. It's terrible. Anyway, got 2 rounds that you have unlocked for Be the Booker. That's how you know it's a good night. It's not a good night of Raw, but it's a good night here on the channel. So let's go ahead and gear up. We got round number 1 coming your way right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to Be the Booker.
Oh, it's always a good time to be the booker, unless your name is Triple H, and then I wish he would not be booking. Not when we get shows like this. But let's see what we can come up with on our own, shall we? Let's see what we can whip up here. This is always a good time. We see those B2B emojis in the chat. Oh, man, tag teams, again, not exactly a Triple H special, but I do love me a good tag team match. They were a great team, even though they had the penny belts, which I hated. But we have Cody Rhodes and Goldust keeping it in the family, kicking us off here and be the booker. The Mets won over JD's Braves today, 14-3. Wow. So then I expect them to get blown out in their next 3 games. Cody and Goldust. Oh, wait a minute. What is with these penny belts? In every image. Choose 2 single stars to form a makeshift team. Could you imagine? Because I'm in Be the Booker and JD is in Be the Booker. What if we ended up together as a tag team? Wouldn't that be something? Wow. And we would be wrestling Cody Rhodes and Goldust. All right. Makeshift team time. They stopped making the penny, by the way. Good. It's a useless coin. Rey Mysterio. Okay. Rey Mysterio, by the way, in that image that you just saw, that was from 2006. It is now 2026, and he was wrestling on Monday Night Raw tonight. It's a hell of a career he's had. Rey Mysterio and The Undertaker. This is OG Undertaker. This is permed hair Undertaker. This is gray glove Undertaker. Undertaker and Rey against Cody and Goldust. I like that. I like that a lot. All right, women's match. What would that match look like? Who gets the winning fall in that match? It's got to be Undertaker, right? Ruca, no longer your women's Intercontinental champion. What a memorable run that she had with that belt. We're going to look back on this years from now and think of all the great matches she had, all the great title defenses. So Ruca going to go one-on-one with AJ Lee. AJ Lee. Going to take a soul snatcher. I feel like she's too short to take a soul snatcher. She's going to go for the soul snatcher. There's going to be nothing there. AJ's like 5 foot nothing. And in the main event, Jerry Curl Undertaker. Soul Glow. We have everyone's favorites. 4 letters, 1 word. Yeet. Former world heavyweight champion. This was a real thing, by the way. This is not AI. This is a real image. Former world heavyweight champion Jey Uso is once again main event Jey Uso here in the main event of Be the Booker. But against who? That is the question. Pure graps. Pure crap is more like it. Jey Uso against Jeff Hardy. Oh, that'll sell some t-shirts, right? That's merch heaven for WWE. They're going to sell a lot of Jeff Hardy merch. They're going to sell a lot of Jey Uso Yeet merch. The Yeet Merchant. All right. You always want to sweep when we do this. However, you know what would be even better? If we could do it again. We're aiming for the double sweep. It's not easy to do, but we're going to try it. First, we need some stipulations. Now, we have a pole match coming up at SummerSlam. So maybe we could land on pole match. Nope, it's going to be a barroom brawl. Okay. That works too. That works too. Tag team barroom brawl. How about that? Tag team barroom brawl with the New Day, who are going to be free agents very shortly. Gee, I wonder where they'll go. See, I don't think the New Day drinks. They drink milk with their bootios. But they're going to be in a barroom brawl. Oh my God. Oh, it's like they know. It's almost like Be the Booker knows. It's like Be the Booker is so excited about what's about to take place very soon. It got ahead of itself. And it gave us the New Day against the Young Bucks. You got the New Day against the Young Bucks and Be the Booker before you got it in AEW. Tony Khan's not going to be very happy about this. He got scooped. In a barroom brawl, though, I see if it was a ladder match. See, that I could see. It's become aware. I think Be the Booker became aware a long time ago with some of the matches that we've landed on. Ambulance match. This is a new one. I think this is one of the new stipulations. Someone is going in the back of the ambulance. Maybe you could just open the door and Braun Strowman will just go running into the back of the ambulance. Then you could just slam the door behind him. Well, we're going to have a women's ambulance match. I don't know that there ever has been a women's ambulance match. Maybe there was one in NXT, maybe? I don't know. Trish Stratus. She's definitely never been in an ambulance match before. Trish against who? Yes, who is going to the local medical facility? Trish Stratus against Queen Zelina. And it pains me to do this. That is going to be a no-go for me. Trish and Zelina in an ambulance match. That's not a winner. We were close. We could have had that double sweet, man. Got the new chime for it and everything, but it was not meant to be. However, you do get one more match. So let's see if we can... Was that with a Z or an X? I guess an X. I don't want to get in any trouble with the legal department in WWE. We have a scaffold match. One of the most dangerous matches ever created. I am afraid of heights, so I certainly do not want to take part in a scaffold match. But someone's got to go up there. It's going to be the Golden Boy. It's going to be QB1. Cody Rhodes. Get your ass up there, son. You're going up on the scaffold. What a SummerSlam main event that would have been. Cody Rhodes against CM Punk in a scaffold match. Yeah, let's put 48-year-old CM Punk up on a scaffold 25 feet in the air. That'll end well. Cody Rhodes against Mark Henry in a scaffold match. I have to give that the bell. I have to see this. I have to see this. Is there a scaffold that will be able to hold Mark Henry and Cody Rhodes? Can you just imagine the visual of Mark Henry up on the scaffold? I can't even picture it. I can't even picture it. But I'm sure the day after, if he survives it, he'll give everybody the full report on Busted Open Radio. Or WWE Radio, as it were. Some very interesting combinations there. But my favorite there is New Day and Young Bucks. I think Be the Booker knows for sure. And Impact Entertainment. I was at tonight's show. Thought it was okay, except the Danhausen stuff. But yes, this show could be way better. Yes, it can. And that is the frustrating part about it. It can be a lot better. Hendry ain't going up there, and no one is going to make him. I'm certainly not going to make him. He doesn't want to go up there. He doesn't have to go up there. I'm not going to be the one to force him. Brian Zane reviewed the December 28, 2009 Raw on his page today, which featured Cody Rhodes against Mark Henry. Wow. Who said that? Who said that before? That Be the Booker knows. I think it's self-aware. I think, everyone's talking about AI and how quickly AI is advancing. I think Be the Booker has, over the years, it has learned. It has learned from all of these different combinations that we have put together, and it's a lot more self-aware, I think, than we may think. And Navy 4181. I hope the Dark Side of the Ring episode on Boss Man has a reenactment of Cornette falling off the scaffold. That would be the icing on the cake for your next review. I don't know if they would do that to Cornette, because he's usually, and probably will be in that episode. I don't know how he would feel about that being reenacted. They may not want to piss him off, or maybe he'd be okay with it. I don't know. They want to play nice with Cornette, though, because he's one of the talking heads on these shows. They have a good relationship, a good rapport with him. I know that's not one of his finer moments. Am I sure that Triple H doesn't just use Be the Booker every week? He might. He very well might. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing in that room. Aaron, what older or retired wrestler would be a good manager? I mean, so many to choose from. Retired wrestler would be a good manager? Someone like AJ Styles could be a good manager. He's got a good mind for the business, and maybe AJ. I mean, there's probably a lot of them out there that you can choose from. Do you have a favorite one in mind that you would like to share? Because like I said, we could use a really good manager in WWE so that not everybody has to become a Paul Heyman guy. Zizo says, SG. I hadn't thought about that. Actually, him managing Tiffany Stratton would be hilarious. SGT Slaughter. Yeah. Good old SGT. Maybe get him out of retirement. I'll never get over that. Oh, man. Anyway, you guys have made this night far more entertaining than Monday Night Raw was. I can promise you that. Tomorrow there will be a brand new installment of the Uncrowned Wrestling Show dropping later in the day. I'll get that done in the morning. And then tomorrow night, we have a brand new live installment of Tuesday Night Titans over on JD's channel. So you guys know where to go for that. And I'm sure there will be much to discuss. Go back and check out episode 973 of The Sound Off if you missed it. Covered a lot of ground on that show. SummerSlam predictions, Dark Side of the Ring thoughts, the Vince McMahon, Janelle Grant stuff. There was some Global Force Gold audio that I included at the beginning of the episode, some lost media. I think you'll get a kick out of that. Kurt Angle? Kurt Angle for Chad Gable. Kurt Angle as a manager, I look at him, he would be more of like a coach. More than like your traditional like wrestling manager. He could be like Chad Gable's coach. I don't know that he would want to do the travel though. That's a whole other ball of wax. Tully Blanchard was a good manager, yeah, when they had him with FTR. Sure. Who could forget about Armed Anderson? Can't forget about that. Hopefully that video resurfaces. Well, yeah, I don't have the video, but I did reproduce the audio for you. So that's at the very beginning of the latest sound off if you want to go back and check that out. All right, guys. Thank you again for 93,000 here on the channel. Onward to 94. Hit that like button on your way out. Be well. Stay safe. Have yourselves a great rest of your night. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I will see you for all the shows that are coming up tomorrow and back here on this channel Wednesday night for the Dynamite Post Show. Until then, take care, guys.